Hi, this is Subhodeep, and congratulations for completing Module 1 with Py-Volution and me, your friend Subhodeep Sarkar. And this video is the starting of Module 2. So I hope you guys are excited. And our first topic will be file handling. I am so excited to teach you this topic, and it is really a really important topic in any programming language, because there are times when you need to write programs which has to interact with external files, okay, and you need to process something and you need to do something with external files. Till now we have written programs that have been helpful to us, and it will be helpful in the future as well, but we haven't written programs which can actually go outside of the program and handle files which are actually present in your local computer. But now since we are starting module 2, we are going to learn all of these stuffs. So the first thing we will learn is how to handle a txt file that is called text file. So what is a text file? I hope you guys know. Uh, if you have used Notepad or WordPad or something like that, you probably have you used text files or have worked with text files. So text files are very simple things where you simply write text. There's nothing more, nothing less. It's all text. So you cannot put an image, you cannot put a video, you cannot put a recording. All what you can do is only just type out text. So we are going to create such files with the help of Python, and we are also going to take the data out of such files in Python. So let's say there is a file, let's say there is a text file where you have a very big text. So let's say there's a paragraph or there's an article you have written. Okay, so there's an article you have written, but then suddenly you remembered, well, I need to make changes to those. Let's say if there is an article about some fruit, and mistakenly you have written the name of the fruit as orange instead of apple. Of course there is one way, like you have to go and then change everything manually. Like for every orange you will just remove it and put an apple there, but it's a very long process. Let's say there are 10,000 lines of text, right? So it's a huge thing, and you cannot go and manually do this. Of course you can, but it will take a lot of time. Here comes file handling. You can uh, take that file, put it into your Python code, make the changes and save it back, and boom, it's done. So now that's what we are going to learn. That's the first thing. Next we are going to learn about CSV files. Now what are CSV files? If you have seen Excel sheets or spreadsheets in general, that is if you have worked with tables that have rows and columns, CSV files will be very handy to you. So what are CSV files? CSV files are actually comma separated values. I repeat, comma separated values. So what does that mean? It means, like, let's say you have a student data. Every student has a name, a roll number, a unique ID, an address, a phone number, right? So let's say you have 1,000 different students. You have 1,000 students in a school, and you want to store their data in a tabular format, in a big table. So one way of doing that is to directly make an Excel sheet. Just make an Excel sheet and just put them into there. The next way is using databases, which we will of course cover later on. But we are going to interact with Excel sheets using CSV files. Now, what are CSV files? Every column is separated by a value. This is why it is called comma separated values. Let's say you have name, roll number, and unique ID. So name, comma, roll number, comma, unique ID. Okay, and under that you have, let's say, John, roll number 20, unique ID 50. Then you have let's say you have Rocky, roll number 95, unique ID 56, like that. So it's all separated. It's just like a table. So in a table there are columns and there are rows. Every row is single data. So every student's data is a single row. So let's say I'm a student. So Shubhadeep is my name, and my roll number is, let's say, 16, and my unique ID is, let's say, 80. So these will make a single row. Now the next one, let's say, it's Sudeep. So is the name Sudeep. The roll number is, let's say, 50, and the unique ID is, let's say, 90. So this is another row. Then for the next student there is another row. For the next student there is another row. So these are the rows. And what are columns? Columns are the values. What are the values? Name, roll number, and unique ID. So there are 3 columns, and the number of students is equal to the number of rows. So if there are 10 students, there will be 10 rows. If there are 100 students, there will be 100 rows. So that's the concept there. Finally, we are going to convert that whole thing into a spreadsheet or Excel sheet. Okay, that's the thing we're going to do, and we are also going to cover how to convert Excel sheet back into comma separated value files and then work with them. Okay, so we will talk about this next. So let's get started. So I hope you got basic idea. Okay, again, why do we need file handling? Because you see, let's say you want to store a huge amount of text. Let's say you have article, um, who's better, Messi or Ronaldo? So let's say you have an article like that in the internet, and you want to save that. So maybe you will put it in a variable. But the problem with that is your variables, your lists, your all the data structures you are currently watching, they are being stored in RAM. And in the second lecture, I have told you that RAM is a volatile memory. That means once we turn off our computer, boom, it goes away. So then when we turn back on, we do not get the data back. So that's a really bad thing. So if it happens to be a very important data, like let's say a user table or a student record, and you want to save it, you cannot put it in a variable, right? Because once you turn off the computer, it goes away. Woo, there's no data present at it. But the way to store it is to use file handling. Okay, so let's say you want to download a song from the internet. Do you want the song to be removed once you switch off the computer? No, right? Let's say you are downloading a movie. Let's say I'm downloading The Dark Knight Rises. Okay, that's a great movie. By the way, so let's say you downloaded it. You do not want that 2 GB file to be vanished once you turn off the computer, because that will be a wastage of your data, right? That's not what you want. In that case, you will use file handling. You will save it in your hard disk. Once you save a thing in your hard disk, it will not go away until and unless you deliberately delete it. That's the advantage there, right? So if there's something that we want to keep it permanently, or at least we want to put it in some storage, we need to use file handling. Okay, so you're communicating with the external files. You want to process data, so you want to take the data already present in the storage, you have to use file handling. You want to put a new data into a storage, you are using file handling. Okay, so that's the basic idea. So now let's get our hands dirty. Let's get started. So let's get started with our first topic, which is reading from an individual file, because this is the simplest one in file handling. We will cover writing to a file, we will cover CSV, Excel, and also how to go into a directory with the help of Python and use all those data inside that folder. Okay, but first start with the basics. So I have some of the demo files I made for you. So it's here inside this folder, demo, and we have 4 text files. Why text files? Text files are files with .txt. So you can see, let me show you this. Okay, so this txt here means that it is a text files. It can contain only text, it cannot contain any images. So let me open this for you. So this is what it is. So it's a plain white text. It contains the first line of this file is name, the second line is the phone number, and the third line is the country he or she is belonging from. And similarly, we have all the 3 files that follows the same format. So we have Darlipovida and her phone number and her country. and we have Ibrahim Jallo. He is from Afghanistan. This is his phone number, and this is his name. So all of them follows the same format. And we have finally Ikechukwu, and same format, the name, the phone number, and the country. Okay, only these three things. Okay, nothing extra, nothing more, nothing less, only these information. So why I have done this, you will know later on, but for now let's read from a file. So let's open our Python interpreter and let's start our Python interpreter saying Python. So it opened. Now there are two ways of opening a file. Okay, you have to first open, like if I want to read this file over here, let's say I want to open this file, so can I read it from outside? No, I can't. I have to double click it to open it, right? Now it opens. Similarly, you have to open the file in Python in order to read it. Python cannot directly open it. You have to open it. So there are two ways of opening. The first one is not, what I don't recommend, because the first one is easy, but it is more error prone. Okay, so the first one is file. Okay, this is a variable. You can keep any name. You can say egg or horse or whatever you like. So this is just a variable, just like a string variable or an integer variable. So this is just a variable. So let's name it file because it will contain our file. So file equals to, you say, now you are telling Python to open a file. So you say open. So you're saying Python to open a file, and inside open you are going to specify the absolute path or the relative path of the file. Now again, a recap. What is an absolute path and a relative path? So let's say you are standing in your city and a random guy asks you what's your address. So you're gonna say, well, I live in that street, in that colony, my pin code is this, and only these information, right? You are not gonna tell him your whole state, your country, your continent, your planet, your galaxy or universe, right? uh, because he already knows that you are in you are in that city. Okay, you both are in the same city, so you're not going to tell him the name of the city, right? So let's say you live in New York, and some guy in your own city asks you, hey brother, where do you live? You won't say that, well, I live in New York, and inside New York I live in this street, inside this street I live this house number, right? You won't say this because he knows that you are living in New York. Okay, so this is relative path. And what's the problem with relative path? The problem with relative path is that others cannot identify you. Only the people who are with you, right, who are at the point you are, can identify you. Okay, but let's say alien, an alien asks you address. What do you say? Will you say that I live in New York? Nope, that won't work. Why? Because that alien doesn't know what New York is. Maybe he doesn't have any idea what New York is. You will say, I live in Milky Way galaxy, and inside Milky Way galaxy, I have a planet called Earth. Inside Earth, I have a continent called North America. Inside North America, I live in New York. And inside New York, I live in this street number. Inside this street number, I live in this house. So you're gonna tell the whole address, right? This is called an absolute path. Using an absolute path, what's the advantage? The advantage is that anybody in the goddamn world can actually identify your address. Okay, regardless of he or she is in your city or not. So that's the full address. Now what's the disadvantage? The disadvantage is that it's way long, right? And it causes trouble when you are using it more than one number of times, right? So you don't want to write all that big thing, like you don't want to say Milky Way, Earth, North America, New York, blah blah street number, right? That's a long thing. So that's the disadvantage. In this case, if it's too long, use relative paths. But if it is not that much long, try to use absolute path. Okay. So I hope you have the idea. For example, we are already in here, right? We are already in here. So how to go to this file? There are two ways, right? We can say Okay, we can say, so this is the absolute path. Okay, this is the absolute path. Let me show you. Let me show you the difference in terms of computer. Let's open another terminal here, and let's open it. Yeah. Now, if I say cd, or let's say dir control v, so you have all these 4 text files, right? It shows the contents in this directory or in this folder, right? So you have a C drive. Inside C drive you have a folder called users. Inside users you have a user folder, you have desktop folder, and then you have a demo folder, and inside demo folder you have these 4 things. Okay, and this is the same as dir. And since I'm already here, I am not gonna write this. I'm gonna just copy this one, just take this one, paste this, and boom. So as you can see, it gives me the same result, right? But this is a shorter version. See, I have given this address, but it is showing me this address, right? So since I am already inside this directory, I'm already up to this way, I'm not gonna include this. I'm gonna just say go to desktop, and inside desktop you will find a folder called demo. Inside demo you will find 4 text files. Okay, or simply show me all the files you have got inside demo. Okay, but again, once you enter the command, you get the full path. C, then users, then user, then desktop, then demo. This is absolute path, and this is relative path. The problem is you cannot access this thing. Okay, let me show you. So let's say I change my directory. Cd double dot means go to the previous directory. So I am not inside this, I am inside this. Now if you try to do the same thing we did here, control C, and you paste it, you get an error. Why? The system cannot find the file specified. So the system does not know where the desktop is. Why the system does not know? Because there's no desktop file. I mean, there's no desktop folder, right? If there's no desktop folder, how can it find demo? But if I use this thing, if I use this thing, this whole thing, and I control C it, paste this, boom, we get it once again. So this will work no matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you're inside this, it doesn't matter if you're inside this, and it even doesn't matter if you're inside this as well. This is gonna work always. This is called absolute path. So that's the advantage. You can access your files from anywhere in the system. But in this case, what we are seeing, what then you may ask, what is the relative path for this one? So we would say, so what's after users? We have user, then after user we have desktop, then we have demo. So from here to here is the relative path. So let me just copy this, dir, paste this, boom, this is the relative path. So sometimes you got to use relative path, sometimes you got to use absolute path. You choose it, whatever you feel like, but I will go with absolute path whenever necessary. So now let's go back to our work folder. Let's go to user. Inside user, let's go to desktop. Inside desktop, let's go to demo. Cd into demo. So what is this command? This command means change directory, means change folder. Okay, so we are hopping from users to user, and then we are hopping from user to desktop. Now we are hopping from desktop to demo. So we are here. This is our oops. So this is our current location. Okay, now we start our Python so that we can directly access without any absolute path. Okay, now inside this, okay, let's close the previous window. We do not need it. Yeah, this one, close it. Yeah. Now here we can say file. So this is the variable name where we will store the file, and inside this file we will say open. So we are saying Python to open a file. Now you have to give the file name. So in this case, let's open this one, subhodeep.txt. So let's open this. So you have to provide the name. Subhodeep.txt, and always remember, try to put this thing, this R. Okay, why this R? This R means that in this text there are no special characters. Now, what are special characters? Special characters are things like, if you have seen this one, new line or tab, all these stuffs. So these are called special characters, and there are nothing like that. You are actually acknowledging Python, or you're confirming Python that thing. Okay. Yeah, of course it is optional. This will even work if you do not specify it. But remember to use this when you have something like /n or something like that. Okay. So again, do this thing and say Subhodeep.txt, and that's it. Okay, that's it. And now enter. Now we have our file opened. Okay, we have our file opened, just like we double click and our file opens. Okay, this is the same. Now we are going to read from the file. Now there are three ways of reading from the file. The first one is read, simply read. The second way is read lines, and the third way is read line. Now let's understand what are the differences. Let's say we're gonna read from this file. Let's say file dot read, and that's it. We have our contents of the file. Boom. So we have it. This is our file. Now you may ask, okay, now let's compare this thing. Now let's compare this thing with our original file. Now let's open this one. Yeah, we have it opened. Okay, not this one. Let me just open it. So now you may be saying that, well, there are three lines and we are getting a single line. Why is that? Well, not really. We are getting something like this. This thing. This means new line, right? So Subhodeep Sarkar new line. That means we have hit enter. This means enter, right? We have entered a new line. Okay, and again we have entered a new line, but you know, after India we haven't entered anything. So since they are in separate lines, because see, after Subhodeep Sarkar's, there's nothing on this line. We have hit enter and we have moved to the next line and we have written the number over there. So that's why we get this N over here. And after we write the phone number, we again hit enter. So again we get this new line character. And then we write India. And we do not hit any enter. So that's why I know this one. So this is the first way. But now if I try to read the file once again, file.read. Oops, I'm sorry. Oops. Windows is really buggy. File equals open. Let me just open it once again. Let me just show it once again. Now you say Subhodeep.txt. Okay. You enter it. Now what you're gonna do is you say file.read. So it has read our file. Now what we have to do? Okay, let's read this file once again. Let's try to read this once again. Let's see what happens. This time we do not get anything. It's blank. We don't get anything. Why? Because we have already read the file. We have already read the file. So if we want to read the file once again, well, we have to open the file once again. We have to open once again. Okay. So once we read the file, we cannot read it again. Why? Because let me show you how Python reads the file. Let me explain this thing to you. So this is our file opened. Now look at the cursor very carefully. Okay, I hope this is big enough. Now look at the cursor very carefully. So Python, when you say file.read, what Python does is it goes like this. Zui, zui, zui. Once again, when you hit file.read, it goes like this. Look at the cursor. Look at the blinking cursor over here. Okay, see this file dot read. Boom. Now if you try to do the same thing once again, file dot read, it won't go back. Okay, it won't go back. Once you have hit read, once you have hit file dot read, the cursor is here. Okay, and after this there is no line. It's blank, right? It's blank. There's nothing after this. This is the reason it cannot read twice. Yeah. So this is one big disadvantage. Okay. So you hit one read. So file dot read will take you here, and if you hit file dot read once again, it will give you nothing. Why? Because after India, after this blinking cursor, there's nothing. It's blank. It's all blank, right? So this is the reason it's happening. If we want to read this once again, we have to open this once again. I have to prove this to you. Open it once again. Now read it once again. See what happens. This time you get once again this one. Now if I hit file.read once again, I get blank because there's nothing after India. And we are standing right here. We are standing right here. After A we are standing. And there's nothing after A. So we get blank. But another important thing that I want to mention is that whenever you open a file, you gotta close it. Why? Because let's say I want to see this file. I open this, but after opening, once my job is done, once my task is done, what should I do with this file? Should I keep this open? Right? Should I keep this open? No, right? Because it will eat up my RAM. It will eat up my memory. If I open a lot of files like this, let's say this is one file, but let's say I open 1,000 files like this, and I do not close any of them, it's gonna eat a lot of RAM in our computer. Okay, so you have got to close it with this cross button. Close it. Similarly, in Python, you have to close every file. Okay, how to close a file? You're gonna say file dot close, and you are going to do this every single time you open a file. If you don't do this, your program will eat up your memory. Okay, now you may say once my program is finished, I can simply close the program and boom, it's all over. But no, that's not right, because you know what, these are very simple programs where you are just reading the file, closing the file, but there will be programs where you will be reading the file. All right, you will be reading the file, but you will do a lot more things after reading the file. And if you do not close the file, it will eat up your RAM. So let's say we have 100 different files you have got to open, and you have to work on that. So you open one by one all the files, but you forgot to close those files. It will eat up your RAM. So what's the way? What's the solution here? The solution is something called context manager. What are context managers? Well, context managers are actually like managers who will manage your resources. Now, what are resources? Resources is anything that you are trying to use. Okay, like a file, a program, anything. It is resource. So whenever I am opening this file, so this file is a resource for me, and whenever I open a resource, I have got to close that resource because it will eat up our RAM, and we don't want that thing to happen, right? So what does a context manager look like? Well, it says with, and you do the same thing over here. Just copy and paste this, Control C and Control V, and you give a name as file. This will be your variable name. Now, what's the advantage of this? The advantage is that, well, this is a block, like a if block. See, look at this column. This is just like a if block or a for block or a while block, right? So this is a code block, and once you go out of the code block, it will automatically close the file for you. You do not have to write this thing. Okay. Now that's an advantage, because a lot of times what happens is you open the file but you forget to close the file. That's really, really bad. Okay. It will take huge RAM in your memory. It will eat up your memory. That's really not good. So since we forget these, Python knows that we are humans and we can make mistakes. So Python has provided this thing. Okay, this is just like an if block. Okay, and let's see how we can write this. So basically, you write this thing over here with this one, and you're gonna write this thing over here. So this is the variable name right now, and this is the thing we are trying to open, right? So we are saying open this thing and call it this thing. Okay, I'm going to refer to this as this. Okay, now I'm going to say file dot read. Now it's going to do the same thing. It's going to do the same thing. See, once I exit from the block, this is just like a if block. Okay, this is just like a if block. So once I close out of the block, it gives me the same result. But this time I do not have to close it. It's already closed. Boom. That's the advantage. Now, there's one thing I want to show you. There is another method of doing this read thing. So I can say with open, and this is the recommended way. Remember, this is the recommended way. Whenever you're trying to open any resource, be it file, be it databases, be it network connections, definitely we'll cover them later on. But whenever you are trying to open a resource, do this thing, not that variable thing. Okay, with open, because these are resources, these are not strings, these are not integers. So open this. So I'm gonna say Subhodeep.txt as file, and what you're gonna say is file dot read lines. Now give a s. Okay, now use this method over here, file dot read lines. Now this is similar to read, but it is not exactly same. Let's see why. Oops, what happened? uh oh shit, I have put 3 e's here, a lot of e's. I'll just remove this one. Yep, now it's okay. File dot read lines. See, can you spot the difference? When we were using read, it was giving us a single string containing all the information in the file. But when we are using file dot read lines, we are getting something like this. Yeah, we're getting something like this. So that's the difference. File dot read lines gives us every line separated in a list. So basically, this is the first line, this is the second line, and this is the third line. So we get all the lines in a separated way in a list. So we get a list containing all the lines. Okay, now there's a problem. Can you notice that we every time we are reading from a file, we are getting this n, and we don't need that. So what can we do? Well, we have a method. Remember, while teaching you strings, I have discussed with you something called split. I'm gonna say boom. Something happened. Okay, just hold on. I can do this thing. List map. Inside map, you're gonna say something like this. R strip. See if this works. Okay, not really this one. Okay, do one thing, guys. What you're gonna do is you're gonna use let's say you you want not this one. Okay, if you don't want this thing, don't use read lines, use read. Why? Let me show you this thing. Okay, now file dot read, now you say split, and inside split you say this one. Boom, here we go, we have this thing. Okay, we have, when we did file dot read lines, we had all the lines separated in a list. Okay, all the lines separated in a list, but only problem was this one, this slash n, and we don't want that. So we did file dot read and then split. So what really happened? Let me go back, or let me show it once again. Dot read. Okay, don't give split and see what happens. Let's do this thing as it is. Now, can you spot the difference? It gives you a single string, okay, with ends between different lines. So this is the first line and this is the second line, and these lines are separated with a slash n, right? This is a slash n and it separates the lines. So the first line and the second line is separated with this one. So that means we can use this thing to separate all these, right? So this is the reason we are going to say split slash n. That means identify these n and then split it. So if I remove these two n's, what do we have? We have this line, the n is removed, so we do not check it. We have this thing, we have this thing. So if I can take out these n from this whole string, I can break it into three pieces. The first piece is this one, the second piece is this one, and the third piece is this one. So that's what I am doing using split. Okay, so this is another way of reading. So this is read lines. So this was another way, you can use it definitely, but I prefer this one. I prefer this one. And this, well, another way, but let me show you. Now I say file dot read line. What happens with this one? So we had read lines and we have read lines. So what's the difference between them? Let me check. So we get the first line. So the cursor is right here. Okay. Now if I do the, okay, it is closed. Just this won't work because it has already closed the file because we were using this with block. Okay. Let me just show you. File equals open. Now if I say file dot read line, what do we get? We get this thing. Now if I say file dot read line once again, we get the second line, we get the third line. But once we hit enter once again, the same thing, we get nothing, we get nothing, we get nothing. Why? This was the first line. So I say, hey Python, read line. Python reads the first line for us and then it stops. It doesn't do anything else. Then we say, hey Python, read the second line. I mean, read the read line. So currently the cursor is here. So what's the second line? This is the second line, the whole number, and then the enter we had pressed. And finally we see file dot read line. So the cursor is standing here and the third line is this one. That's it. Now since there are nothing left, we get blanks all over here. So what this is doing, let me show you this in a graphical way so that you can understand. So what are the differences? Let me make this big for you. I think this is big enough, right? Okay. So let's understand the differences between read lines and read line. What does read do? Read goes all the way to the end and it stops. gives the gives the result back in a single string, okay. When we use split, then only it becomes a list, but if we do not use split, we get a whole string containing all these all these breaks, because we had hit enter, so we get a new line here, we get a new line here, okay. So that's the only thing we are getting when using read. So once again, read is this thing, zui to the end. Now what's read lines? Read lines is something like this: boom, stop, boom, stop, boom, stop. So three lines read separately. First one, second one, third one. So we do not get the whole thing as a single string. Instead, we get this as a list. The first element, the second element, and the third element. So we get the whole thing separated in a list. This is read lines. And what is read line? Read line does, it reads the line, but only once. So read line, zui, completed, sir. I'm not gonna do anything unless you tell me to do. Hey, read once again, zui. No, not this one. Okay, okay. Read line, zui. I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna do anything. Well, read line, zui. I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna do anything. Read line. Sorry, sir. There's nothing. It's blank. There's nothing after this. So that's what's happening. So this is read. I hope you understood. And we are definitely going to do this a lot when you are going to understand the OS module, CSV files, and of course Excel files, all those stuffs. We're going to do this a lot. And we're going to work this, we're going to work with all of them once we actually get into serious writing and reading stuff. So the reading part is completed. So what recap? What are the ways? So there is file.read. It gives you string, gives you the result in a single string with the new lines. These are new lines, right? New lines or enter. Okay, the enter we have in our keyboard. Okay, so file.read gives you the result in a single line with the new lines. Okay, file.read lines gives you the result separated, gives you each, okay, not this one, gives you a list of sentences with slash n. And finally we have file.readline gives you a single string of a single line each time. Okay, but now you will say, so Shubhadeep, if I want to do the read twice or thrice or 1,000 times, I have to open the resource once again and again and again. So is there a problem? Well, there is a problem. Opening a resource takes time. Remember this. Opening and closing a resource takes a lot of time. Why? Because see, let me open Microsoft Paint for you. Paint. So let's understand computer in detail. This is my brush and I am bad at drawing, so forgive me. This is my hard disk. Okay, this is my hard disk. This is my RAM. Okay, this is my RAM. And we know that this is the primary memory. memory, and this is our secondary memory. Okay, now the thing is, let me take the pencil. This primary memory thing is volatile memory. Last time I told you, if I close the computer, whatever we have inside this will be gone. And this secondary memory is called persistent memory. Why? Because whatever we store inside this secondary memory, it never goes away unless and until we delete it by ourselves. Okay, so if you download a movie and you keep it in your hard drive, it won't get deleted once you close the computer, right? That's an advantage. But there's a problem. The thing is, whenever you want to access that movie, you cannot directly access it from the secondary memory. Okay, that is the thing with computers. You cannot directly access things inside hard disk. What you have to do, let me make this brush a little bit big. So you have to bring the movie into RAM, and only then you can access it. Once you close it, it goes back to the hard disk. Okay, all the changes are saved. So let's say there is a txt file, txt file. Okay, right? So you want to read it. In order to read this, you will have to bring the txt file into the primary memory, that is RAM. And that this whole thing takes time. Okay, this whole thing takes time. Let me just press, okay, this blue. Okay, so this thing over here, it takes time. And whenever you close it, you make any changes and you close it, it again saves all the changes to the hard disk. And this both thing takes time. So if you think you're gonna do you're gonna open a file 1,000 times, you're gonna open a file 1,000 times, well, that will take a lot of time unnecessarily. Well, you don't require that, because you know what, if you want to read the thing, if you only want to read the thing, you don't want to do anything, you really don't want to do anything else, why close it and why read it again and again and again? Why open it once again? Why open it multiple times? We have a solution. What solution? So the solution is to, let me use green thing, to take this thing, put it into the RAM, read whatever it is inside this, file.read, and then save the thing to a variable. Okay, to a variable. And what a variable is, variables are stored inside RAM. So whenever you switch off your computer, your variable will go away. But the advantage is that since variables are already inside this memory, it doesn't have to come again and again. So whenever you now want to read the file, you access this one. Okay, you access this one. You don't go this way. You don't go open this once again. You bring this once again. No, no. Okay, not this one. From now on, whenever you need the file, you just go to the variable. You know that the variable has the file's contents, so you just access it from there, because accessing this variable won't take time. Why? And you know what, it will take time, but it is not it is negligible. We humans cannot understand that, but it is 1,000 times less as compared to bringing this thing, just bringing this thing into this and open it, and just opening it, then read it. It takes a lot of time. So what you do instead is, for once, take this thing, bring it into the RAM, whatever the content is inside this, take it, put it into a variable. Now whenever you need to read that file, just access the variable. That's it. I'm going to show this to you in Python.